Hello everyone, welcome. Today I want to talk about toxic positivity and how that maybe affects your life or the life of people you know and why it's toxic. Now, what is toxic positivity? What do I mean by this? In order to answer this question, first we need to ask another one. And that question is, what does it mean to be truly happy? Do you know what true happiness is? And the thing is that that's actually a very deep question. You know, I could actually talk for hours about happiness, what it is and what it's not. But to simplify it, happiness is something sustainable. And also, it's not always feeling good. Because that's the thing. Back in the day, I used to think that being happy actually means to get pleasure from things. I was thinking that having pleasurable experiences is actually being happy. In my mind, it was like, oh, the more I can feel good about stuff, the more happy I am. As a result, every time I was feeling bad, I was feeling extra bad. And the reason why was because I was trying always to be happy. People have this limiting belief about happiness that you always have to be happy or that you always can be happy, which actually doesn't exist and is not true. It's a lie. It's a lie people have been sold on and still believe in the day of today that you can always be happy. But by believing that you can always be happy, you're actually creating this toxic thing called toxic positivity because you cannot always be happy. It's human nature to have a lot of emotions. And if you're only trying to pursue one emotion to be quote unquote happy, then you're neglecting all of your other emotions. And this causes trouble. I've been through that back in the day, thinking that chasing pleasure makes you actually happy, but never actually feeling fulfilled deep inside. Coming back to the question, what is happiness? What does it truly mean to be happy? It's interesting because happiness is more than just being happy. Another big factor that plays a role into being happy is actually being fulfilled. Fulfillment is not the same thing as pleasure. Those are two different things. One sustains you and one is just a high. I'm not saying that you don't need pleasure as well, but you need to find a good balance between both. Knowing when you can pleasure yourself, because it's definitely sometimes necessary to pleasure yourself, but it's also necessary to have fulfillment. And this brings the question, how do you get fulfilled? What is fulfillment? And what, stands out to me in today's times we live is that a lot of people are actually very disconnected from themselves. Because in order to find fulfillment, you have to be able to connect with yourself on a deeper level. And what do I mean by connecting with yourself? Well, that's the thing. In today's society, we live in a very distracted world. As people say, or I've heard from somewhere, we live in times where distraction is like the new sickness. The internet, social media, marketers, and a bunch of people are just trying to get your attention. And this is one of the many issues. But another one is like we live in times that allow us to have endless stimulation. And this causes a lot of problems because if you can get stimulated so easily and so quickly by just doing this with your phone, especially with the internet of today, where you can just watch everything you want and do whatever you want, and it just drains a lot of dopamine out of your brain. Because of that, you can just do this and you get stimulated. You do this and you get stimulated. This, again, and again, and you can just get stimulation. And as a result of that, you cannot do the boring things. What do I mean by that? Let's say you watch an amazing movie, or you just have the most amazing food ever, or you play a video game, very intense video game with a lot of stimulation. Now, let's say you play the game for an hour. What will happen is, after that, your brain will be jacked up with dopamine. And then, what will happen as a result is that you will need more stimulation than what you received from eating the food or playing the games. And as a result, if you don't get that stimulation, your dopamine levels will crash. You released a lot of dopamine, but now, in order to feel that amazing feeling again, you need even more dopamine. Let's say that after you playing this video game, you decide to read a book. That shit won't happen. That's not going to work because you had this much stimulation, and now you're going back to this much stimulation. As a result, your dopamine levels will crash, and you'll feel shitty about yourself. Now, what's toxic positivity then? After all of this been said, Toxic positivity is when you're making a fool out of yourself. That's when you're actually chasing pleasure, and actually when you're lying to yourself. That's actually not realizing that you're feeling depressed by playing a lot of video games and chasing a lot of stimulation. That's not realizing that there is actually more deeper meaning in life than only chasing pleasure. That's not realizing that you're actually lying to yourself and still convincing yourself that everything is okay. Well, actually it's not. That's the thing. As human beings, we need fulfillment. We need purpose. We need something that drives us. Because if we don't have something that drives us, our mind starts doing weird stuff. We start getting, our brain tells us very weird stuff, and that doesn't sustain us. We're doing a lot of stupid things if we don't have purpose, if we don't have something healthy to guide us and also to sustain us. And what's healthy positivity then? What's something that sustains you? And that's actually realizing that problems are always and will always be. And there is no avoidance of problems. There is only learning how to deal better with problems. And as Mark Manson said, I would suggest go check this guy out. He's amazing. I'm a big fan of the quote he mentions in his book and in his videos, and even in his courses, I think. But Mark Manson says the following: problems will always be, so instead of avoiding problems, lying to yourself that there is no problem, you may as well learn how to deal with that problem and get a better quality of problem. Because whatever you do, just being alive is actually a problem. That's a very deep thing, actually, now that I mention it. But there will always be problems. You cannot avoid them. Just learning to be with them and accepting them and learn how to deal better with them is what it's about. You will realize that problems always exist and you should not avoid them. It's not bad to talk about problems, you know? It's a different story if you loop on the problems. But that's a topic for a different video. Yeah, looping on problems is totally something different. And then, yeah, surely you need to do something about them. It's about finding a healthy balance between the two, you know? Like having enough stimulation because we need it, but also having purpose and meaning in life and finding something that actually sustains you and that you can look onto, and yeah, just having something that you can put your meaning into. That's actually such a deep topic, having meaning. But yeah, maybe I can talk about meaning in a different video. Sounds actually kind of interesting. Anyways, to sum it up, ask yourself, what is it to be truly happy? Do you think that happiness is pleasure? Are you mixing both of the two with each other? Then also realize that life isn't always perfect and ups and downs are there, and that downs are actually necessary in life, and that you can't always be feeling good and have pleasure. Also, be honest to yourself. If you're really happy, ask yourself if you have purpose and deeper meaning for being alive, and what are you doing on this planet Earth. And also know that problems will always be here, and don't avoid them, because that will cause you a lot of suffering and you don't want that. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about it. Take care. Peace.